Welcome back, friends, to another edition, a live edition of In the Trenches. I want to let you know what's going on MGoBlue Podcasts. Already out, the radio replay of Inside Michigan Football. My guest this week, no assistant coach, but we've got two players. First, we start with head coach Jerome Moore, and then joined by a couple of seniors, Greg Crippen on the offensive line, Rayshawn Benny on the defensive line. Trust me, you're going to want to make sure that you go back and listen to that one. If you missed it, Defend the Block. It's a recap of the game against Oakland. These games finally count, and Michigan put it on Oakland. It was exciting, and I think in the exhibition games, there was a game where Michigan scored 100, and I think the other one was 97, 98.
Michigan gave up 100, and then they scored 98. So, yeah, both 90-plus. One took overtime, but that was just the appetizer.
Yes. And so we'll get a chance to talk about that as we did briefly on the Inside Michigan Football as well. But Conquering Heroes, we continue our path down the Hall of Honor. This week, Michigan hockey star Kevin Porter joins me for Conquering Heroes. That one will come out on Thursday. He's, of course, another Hall of Honor inductee. You've already heard him already. You've seen him on camera, and you heard him last night in that big win over Oakland. Mr. Brian Bush. Brian, talk to us just briefly about the game against Oakland. Now that they count, what did you see from Michigan basketball?
Well, Yaxel Lendeborg's pretty good with one hand, so that's something. I mean, he had some incredible plays, and he was obviously playing a little bit banged up. But the fact that Michigan put up 121 points, and I think maybe the talking point is from the guy who scored 5. That's Elliot Cadeau, 12 assists, one shy of a career high. He was outstanding, sharing the wealth. But you look at the bigs. Yax, he had a few highlight reel plays, even though that hand was a little taped up. But Morez Johnson Jr. tied a career high with 20 points in the first half. Adai Mara had 3 straight possessions with a block, 5 for the game. You see the vision, right? It's game one. No disrespect to Greg Kampe and the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Mike Boynton Jr. told Terry Mills at halftime, we have bigger goals than beating Oakland, even if it's a good test to start the season. But the balance, the depth, the talent, it showed itself in game one.
That's exciting. And I mean, we talk about some of those preseason games, exhibition games. Now that they count for real, we get a chance to see this Michigan basketball team. All the transfers, there's a lot of new bodies, a lot of new faces that people got to get familiar with. But just as a little teaser for what is still to come on In the Trenches, this might be my favorite episode that we have done, certainly since we have been on doing the video portion of it. Last week was probably my second favorite, and I did bring a Sharpie just in case the mood hits me to give you another graphic. I have the paper. I have it all ready to go. We'll see what this episode brings us. But at the end, I will be in the video-only portion. You're only going to get it here on the video. We have a special treat from one of our sponsors when we grade the Michigan position groups. We're going to go position by positions and throw in the coaches as well. And I'll give you a heads up, somewhat of a grade on a curve here for some of these different positions. I'll explain it when we get there, but that's not the best part. The best part is we will have an extra feature. I don't want to give any of it away right now.
We tell you all the time, if you're watching on video, you got to check out the audio. If you're listening on the audio, you've got to check out the video. Yes. This week more than any other, because on the audio side, you talk with a Michigan man, a legend, Freddie J, Fred Jackson. That's the audio interview that you could only get on Wednesday morning. So if you're ever going to do it, take advantage. It's a bye week. It's big time. We can't wait to get it going. But let's start with our 7 from 77. And we want to just put the bow on what was an uneven performance for Michigan against Purdue. We hear it all the time, though. You want to celebrate wins. You want to enjoy improving after victories. Michigan did find a way against the Boilermakers. Let's start with the good from what you saw Saturday against the Boilers.
Well, the good is obviously the run game. That's the best thing, I think. Well, it's one of the best things that happened on Saturday. And anytime you run consistently over 200 yards, and we've seen that be a part of this Michigan offense, 253 yards against the Boilermakers. And it was obviously Jordan Marshall. The fact that he had 185 yards, a career high for him, 25 carries, a career high, 3 touchdowns, a career high, 54-yard long in that game. It all starts and ends with him. And that the good starts with the running back position and his ability to set up blocks. And we could talk about this with Kuzdal. We only saw Jasper Parker for 1 rep, but I do like the fact that they're patient and setting up some of the blocks that allows a lineman to get into their blocks, allows them to get up to that second level. That is the best part of the offensive production for this game. Defensively, Derek Moore. We're talking individuals. Third game in a row with 2 sacks. He's now got, with his 7 on the season, 6 of them in the last 3 games. And what it does for that defensive front. Some of the things, if you missed Jansen Vision on Sunday morning, again, go back and watch. It's on YouTube, Michigan Athletics YouTube page. And I talked about some of the effect that he has where now offensive lines and protection schemes are going to be turning protections a lot to him. They're going to be bringing in tight ends. They've got to account for Derek Moore because he has been such a disruptive force defensively for this Michigan team. What does that do? How can Michigan start to open up other pressure points on this defense? Go back to and watch that, and I'll show you exactly when offenses are turning to him. Wink. He's done this with Jayshon Barham, and it's a little more effective with Jayshon because Jayshon has coverage skills being a linebacker. Derek Moore, there's a couple of times late in the second half where they drop him into coverage, and then there's a couple of offensive linemen for the Boilermakers blocking no one, yet pressure is coming from the other side. Mason Curtis got a pressure on that one. So it really opens up so much for this Michigan defense. But those are a couple of the things. Consistency, we'll talk about here in number 2. We got to start being more consistent in all phases of this game.
And Derek Moore's at 8.5 sacks, 2 in 3 consecutive games. There have only been 12 players in Michigan football history with double-digit sacks in a season. I mean, if he keeps doing 2 a game, he's going to set the Michigan record. So Derek Moore certainly surging. Number 2, though, as John mentioned, there's plenty of frustration, of areas of improvement needed to discuss. What's at the top of the list for you from Saturday?
Well, I'll start offensively. And one, it comes down to play calling and situational awareness. And when you start off the game, the first drive, the opening possession, you've got an incomplete, and there were just so many things in that drive that stunted the drive for Michigan. You know, you come out and it's a run for 5 yards. You're thinking, hey, we're getting this thing going. And then there's a breakdown in protection. They identified a blitz coming off the edge, so it was better than they did against Michigan State by seeing it, identifying it. Now it's a matter of actually blocking them. They redirected them, and it allowed Bryce. This is the first one where he was able to escape the pocket, pick up a first down. But then you get further down the road, and you just can't have as many incompletions. And this is where it started off in regards to Bryce was just, fingertips away from completing one to Donovan McCauley. And we saw it with every receiver. Andrew Marsh was one of them as well. You got to find a way to get better rhythm in the passing game. And so it starts with protection. You've got Bryce Underwood, who is able to escape the pocket. All of his runs, except for one in the second half, his first half runs all came on breakdowns and protections. He was able to pick up some yardage, so it didn't cost them a lot. But the second drive, you start off first play, you're going to throw the ball, sack, yard loss, you're behind the sticks. They're not able to recover. Other than that, he was able to gain yards on some of those. But you've got to solidify the protection. You've got to figure out a rhythm in the passing game. And maybe early on, it's just what we've seen other teams do against this Michigan defense is it's quick passes. It's quick in routes by the receiver. Dump it off to some of your running backs or a tight end. Get in a rhythm of passing before you start taking things downfield. I know you want to attack. I know you want to open up the offense, but you've got to find a rhythm first, especially with a freshman quarterback, a young quarterback. And so offensively, that's part of it. The red zone turnovers. You get down to the 19-yard line. Bryce throws the interception. And on that one as well, and I talked to Sherrone Moore about that on Inside Michigan Football last night. If he just keeps looking and is a little bit more patient and runs a little bit to the left, you got a receiver that opens up. If he tucks it and runs it, probably picks up the first down. Instead, tries to force the ball in, interception, and then later in the game, you get inside the red zone again, and it's the fumble that Bryce had. And if you look at that one, all it is a matter of securing the football. No issue at all with and how is he attacking. I don't want him to slide in that situation. I thought he did a nice job, but it's that elbow. He's got that elbow up, leaves that ball exposed on the backside, and it doesn't take much to poke it out. Tighten it up. At that point, you're a running back. So get with Freddie J. Get with, the running backs coach and find out what is it when I become a runner, what do I need to do to secure the football? Those are issues offensively. Defensively, it's, and it's kind of the question that a lot of defenses are forced with is a running quarterback. When you've got two different quarterbacks for Purdue, and on that 19-yard or 19-play drive that went 75 yards, and I think it was just over 6.5 minutes, they're swapping quarterbacks in and out. One, it's identifying who's in the game because you have different tendencies for that quarterback. And so a passing quarterback who could still run, you just have different things that are in your mind of what does he like to do? What are some of the signals for the offense when he's on the field that I can gain an advantage? Same thing with the other one. If you've got more of a running quarterback, and this is something that we faced against Oklahoma and John Meijer, it's that the read option run where, hey, he sticks in the running back's belly, not there, and then all of a sudden he takes off inside. They executed it well. Michigan has to find a way to stop that because when you get further down the road, I don't know, I haven't done a deep dive into Northwestern. I know Maryland, that's part of the game plan, and you've got to believe if it's working against Michigan, that Ohio State is going to make it a part of their game plan as well.
So number 3 on our 7 from 77, let's talk a little bit more about Bryce Underwood. Since that great game against Washington, where he had his performance of the season to this point, Bryce, 21 of 39, that's 54%, 231 passing yards, and 2 turnovers. Maybe a freshman game on Saturday, but what of all that you described is correctable imminently during this week leading up to a stretch run? Well, remember, it's easy to be a little bit disgruntled about what Michigan did against a winless in the Big Ten Purdue team, but Michigan won, and they still, from all accounts, control their own destiny in the college football playoff.
They do, and it just comes down to decisions. You're going to be forced or faced with different decisions every time you're on the field, and for the interception, it's looking at that and trying to extrapolate all the different situations that can happen when you're in that position and you're in that situation, and knowing the down and distance, knowing that all I got to do is pick up the first down. I don't have to score a touchdown on this play. We'd love to see it, but it's just about picking up the first down. If you can do it with your feet, that's, to me right now as a young player, that's the best decision. Move the sticks, and now all of a sudden we can go back. We got a fresh set of downs. We're in the red zone, and we know that we can come away with 3 points at a minimum. Same thing on the fumble. And this has been something that, it's not something that's plagued him, but and interceptions is not something that's plagued him either, but it is just a matter of making good decisions when it matters most. And you haven't made bad decisions when the game's on the line. Game hasn't been really in the balance at the end of the game, at least when Michigan's been up, to make a costly decision, but getting ahead and being in a position to get points, that's where the decisions. And then it really comes down to the touch, of being able to lay that ball out, and whether it's just extra time after practice with receivers, you're so close to hitting some of those plays. And if you hit one early in that opening drive to Donovan McCulley, may change the entire course of the game. You have no idea, but it feels a lot better offensively. You get a chunk yardage play, an explosive play in the pass game, and it builds confidence for him. So there's just some touch things in the pass game of when you got to throw a laser, when you, as Jason Avant puts it, when you got to put that free throw out there, and the accuracy of it. And it's not just on Bryce. It's also on the receivers, and we'll talk about that more when we get into the grades.
So offensively as a whole, Michigan can use that bye week. Of course, also from an injury standpoint, the Wolverines can benefit from it. Sharon Moore on Monday night's radio show, which again, you can hear on the audio podcast feed, MGoBlue Podcasts, didn't give a whole lot of updates, did seem to indicate that what prevented Jason Barham from being able to play most of that Purdue game doesn't feel like it's a long-term, but he wasn't committing to any sort of, he'll play against Northwestern. We shall see. There obviously are also reports out there about Justice Haynes, nothing confirmed by the program, but something to monitor. Cole Sullivan, Jimmy Rolder missed. So for this side of things, injuries are part of football, John. We all know that. But how has Michigan been able to overcome it to this point? And can they continue to take on water? Not as excuses, but it's stacking up here, and I know you say the expectation is the position. Michigan's getting pretty shallow at some of these positions.
They are, but the positions where they've been hurt the most is kind of where they're the deepest. Sure. Tight end position, all right, we haven't seen a lot of Hogan Hansen. Marlon Klein's been in and out, but you've got Deacon Tonelli, you've got Zach Marshall. You've had other guys step up. Same thing with the linebacker position where they've been ravaged. And the latest one, as you mentioned, Jason Barham, But you also have, Ernie Hausman has been a tremendous player and a guy that, all guys look to on the field. Doesn't even matter if you're a linebacker, that they've come in and been able to play well. Troy Bowles has come in. And then two young players, Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng did, I thought, a tremendous job. And Sharon has pointed out he did in the post-game interview, also last night on Inside Michigan Football, where, both of those young guys, Chase Taylor and Wusu, were in there and were a part of stopping Purdue on 3rd and 1 and then on 4th and 2. So, injuries have been a big part of it. And then in the secondary, Rod Moore, we saw him for a couple of games. He hasn't been in, but you've got a lot of young players and a lot of young talent in the secondary that has stepped up. So offensive line has been hit with injuries. Young players, again, stepping up. Now it's a matter of those young players, and hopefully you don't get hit with any more injuries, but you've got some experience at those positions now, and it's about taking that film, coaching them up, those guys doing that themselves, doing a little self-scout in what went well, what didn't go well, what techniques do I need to work on at practice. And that's, for a young player, it doesn't matter the position. It could be secondary, it could be linebacker, it could be O-line, is to identify what are the techniques that I need to get better. And then when you go into practice on a Tuesday this afternoon, you've got a list, and maybe if you got to write it on your sleeve, you got to write it on your glove. What techniques throughout the course of practice do I need to focus on? And then maybe it's a 3rd and long pass protection, and I've got to do a better job setting inside so that I don't give a two-way go and let a guy on my inside, or I got to sit down on the bull rush. Having that front of mind so that when the opportunity presents itself at practice, it's something that you can take care of in the moment and start to build some confidence in some of those things.
Before we continue on our 7 from 77, let's tell our fans about Meijer, the presenting sponsor of In the Trenches, the 2025 Michigan football season, which has 3 regular season games left and hundreds of teams across the Midwest.
Gosh, it's so hard to believe that we're that close to the end of the season and the game. But if you want to find where to go to find those savings, it's the Meijer app. You can plan, shop, save, and get deals made just for you. Plus, enjoy an even more personalized shopping experience with M-Perks. Check your M-Perks rewards, see favorites on sale, shop, and do a lot more. When fast and easy convenience is the key. You can check out services like Shop and Scan and Meijer Home Delivery and Pickup. There's more in the Meijer app. See what you're missing. Download the Meijer app and get started today, or learn more at Meijer.com/M-Perks. Meijer is a proud presenting sponsor and fan of the 2025 Michigan football season.
All right, number 5 on our 7 from 77. There were some bleak moments for Michigan at times last year, but remember, it was a week later a season ago, but Michigan's second bye week sparked something. The Wolverines had their most dominant performance, their second to last game, the first game post bye number 2, at home against Northwestern, Michigan's next opponent this season. And we all know what happened in Columbus and then down in Florida at the ReliaQuest Bowl. What can Michigan bottle up from what they did in bye week number 2 last year? Obviously, we all know they need to get healthy, but what else can they do? What can they learn from what was a huge turn of events from the 1-4 run to what was a 3-0 finish?
Well, I think it's the momentum and confidence that they found last year. And it was the second half of the Indiana game defensively. And you look back at that season and you think about Indiana, how good they were last year offensively to hold Indiana to 20 points. And that final score of that game was 20-15. Michigan had their opportunities, but we know the deficiencies of last year's team, certainly on the offensive side of things. But then you get to that Northwestern game and an offense that scores 50 points and a defense, I believe the final score for that game was 50-6. Mm-hmm. But you really felt like you started to find some momentum defensively. You found that dominant attitude of being the bully on the field. Take that then to Ohio State last year, and Michigan's defense was certainly the bully on the field. Now this year, you've got 2 games before the game, and Northwestern, still that common opponent from last year, and Maryland. You got an opportunity against both of those teams to go out there and develop some of that confidence, whether it's offensively, and this is a much better team offensively than it was last year, but it really defensively. Derek Moore, need more from you. And, Jay Sean Barham, need more from you. If you can get some of those injured guys back, We still need more, but it's the consistency from start to finish. Early on in the season, it was those opening drives against Wisconsin and a couple other teams. They found a way to get off the field against Michigan State, had that turnover, and then against Purdue as well. Give the ball to the offense as many times as possible. Allow them to get that rhythm, but it's about being the bully on the field, controlling the line of scrimmage. And if you look at that Northwestern game, Michigan dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they have to do. That's the belief that they have to have going into Ohio State, because against Maryland, they've got a young quarterback, dynamic player. You're going to have some of those QB runs. You're going to have a guy that's scrambling around. It's really about building confidence so that you are at an all-time high going into the matchup with only one home game left against Ohio State.
No doubt. All right, number 6 on our 7 from 77. Let's talk a little bit about what we've seen in the Big Ten. Ohio State and Indiana continue to roll. Buckeyes take down Penn State. Indiana beats down on Maryland. Also, a big one for USC. They go to Nebraska, and a tough break for the Huskers. Dylan Raiola out for the season, injured in that ball game. Thoughts on the Buckeyes, the Hoosiers, and also USC. They finish with Northwestern this coming Friday at the Coliseum, home against Iowa, at Oregon, and home against UCLA. Like Michigan, feels like if they win out, they're in the playoff, and 3 home games, but the toughest game is on the road.
Yes. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things to look at this week in the Big Ten, and Indiana is that team that just keeps churning along. And we thought going into this season, hey, this coming Saturday against Penn State, that was going to be that game for Indiana to say, going out to Oregon, going to Penn State, hey, those are going to be marquee matchups. Not so much anymore, but they seem to be the most consistent team. And I know Ohio State has been as well, but Indiana has just done it with a little bit more flair. I'm really interested to see the Oregon-Iowa game. The one you were just mentioning is Iowa going to Kinnick Stadium. We've seen it happen to us in Michigan. For Michigan going to Iowa to play, it's a tough place to play. Oregon going on the road to Iowa, it's a tough place to play. We always talk about what could be that 4th team that gets in the college football playoffs. Iowa is right there at 6-2. Same thing. A lot of 2-loss teams around the country right now. A lot of 2-loss teams in the Big Ten. We obviously control our own destiny. So does Iowa. If they get a win over Oregon at home, we've seen Ohio State go there and lose. And you kind of left with, how did that happen? This could be another one of those. How did that happen? And Iowa just comes away with a win.
Frankly, I think at this stage in the playoff conversation, any team in the Big Ten or SEC who has 2 losses or fewer probably, almost certainly, controls its destiny, especially because if you look at Michigan, chance it may be the best win in the country if Michigan beats Ohio State. Same deal with USC. If they go to Oregon and win, they've got one of the best wins in the country. Washington, they get Oregon at home, could be one of the best wins in college football this season. So there are opportunities for pretty much every 2-loss team in those Big Two conferences.
Right, and you look at teams like Texas, and the way that they came into the season, they lost a tough one to Ohio State to start the season. Billy Napier was still the coach at Florida, trying to hold on to his job when Texas lost to them, but they end the season with Texas A&M. So they control their own destiny. And, Arch Manning is starting to play a little bit better. You look at Georgia, they're a team that has a couple of losses, or one loss, but they play Georgia Tech at the end of the season.
Yep.
It's an opportunity for a big win, Michigan versus Ohio State. All of these teams that we're talking about, and especially Michigan, you've got to take care of business now. And Oregon, Iowa, both kind of in that situation.
Yeah, it could be fun. Kinnick Stadium can be very rude to highly ranked teams. And unfortunately, Michigan knows it, but a lot of teams in the Big Ten know it. IU, a 2-touchdown favorite at Penn State. Remember, that was looked to be as one of the biggest games for the Hoosiers this season. Ohio State, a 4-touchdown favorite at Purdue. Also of note was Washington is at Wisconsin. Badgers are struggling. Washington trying to stay alive. All right, number 7 on our 7 from 77. SEC, we'll start there. Nationally, Georgia and Ole Miss remain 1-loss teams as the Dogs edge Florida. Ole Miss surges past South Carolina. You mentioned Texas. They keep their playoff hopes alive, holding off a furious Vanderbilt rally. It was 21-0 in favor of the Commodores in the fourth quarter. Texas wins by 3. Man, how close Vanderbilt was to that onside kick. Oh, my goodness. Oklahoma, a big win for Michigan's resume. They get the victory in Knoxville against Tennessee, what felt like a CFP elimination game. Biggest takeaways from what you saw in the Southeastern Conference?
Florida, first game without their head coach. You knew they were going to come out fighting, scratch and claw, and the old, and that's a big game every single year, Georgia, Florida. And so Georgia to be able to come away with a win. They're kind of that team in the SEC. They've only got one loss. That when you look at the Tennessee game and you look at the Alabama game and you look now at the Florida game, they're right there, but nobody's really sure how good Georgia is, or are they, I don't want to say a fraud this year. They're just not as good as they have been, and maybe get knocked out of playoff contention, especially with that matchup in the year. Georgia Tech, now with a loss, is looking at that's a must-win game for them. Miami with another loss. I know we'll talk ACC here in a minute, but it's all about that, those 2-loss teams. And if you're a 1-loss team, you're kind of still in that same category where you can't have a big loss.
Remember, last year, Georgia was kind of the same way, but I think a lot of people, myself included, believe Georgia last year had a better look, feel, resume than what they have this year, and they were one and done in the college football playoff. We shall see. This weekend, biggest game in the SEC, Texas A&M goes to 6-2 Missouri. God, does Missouri ever play a road game? They're always at home. And also Alabama and Vanderbilt in that playoff conversation. They take on interim head coaches. Auburn visits Nashville to take on the Doors, and it's LSU at Alabama, normally a rivalry that you can sink your teeth into, but not so sure in this case.
Well, is this a possibility where LSU has a chance to possibly save their season, post Brian Kelly, just like Florida was trying to do that against Georgia?
Yeah, maybe.
And so, that's the beautiful thing about college football is young players, especially teams that do have a lot of talent. This was a team in LSU that we thought going into the season could contend for a national title. Nobody was picking them as the favorite, but they've got a lot of talent. They've got a quarterback in Nussmeier that had Heisman talk going into the season. Now, they haven't performed that way, but if you're looking at trying to save your season, they could rally the troops for a possible win against Alabama to say, hey, chips against us, backs against the wall. We still were able to fight our way out of it.
Odds makers at least give LSU a puncher's chance. Bama only a 9.5-point favorite. For comparison's sake, in the Big Ten, Washington is a heavier favorite at Wisconsin, 11.5. Not saying it's going to happen, but at least there's a real shot at it. ACC, not a great setup for the league because Georgia Tech lost for the first time. Miami lost for the second time. Tech loses to NC State. SMU with the overtime win at home against Miami. The Ponies are still in the ACC race, which would not be great for the Atlantic Coast Conference. 3 other playoff contenders win on the road. 8-1 Virginia over Cal, 7-1 Louisville over Virginia Tech, and 7-2 Pitt. Don't forget about them over Stanford. This weekend, not a whole lot of true intrigue. Georgia Tech and Pitt both off. Miami versus Syracuse, Virginia versus Wake Forest, and Louisville versus Cal. So the league contenders are at home this week. But the Miami story from a national perspective is probably the most surprising because I think a lot of people are saying, hey, Miami keeps taking care of business. They get into the postseason, then maybe the ACC can get another. Now it's similar, I think, to the Big 12 logjam.
Yeah, it is. And we have talked about Miami for a couple of weeks. They took that first loss, didn't like some of the comments that were coming out of the locker room. And then all of a sudden, hey, you lose another one. Again, they're a team that can upset the apple cart in a lot of different ways. But Louisville taking on Cal. Cal's kind of a sneaky team because they got a quarterback that's very dynamic. And, you're looking at Louisville. They got this game at home. How many times have we looked at ACC teams at the end of the year where you're like, how did they possibly lose that game? I think this is one that Louisville should have circled. It should be super highlighted. Hey, take care of business against a team that's not as good as you. You can't let them come into your place, especially going coast to coast, and come away with a win.
How many times have you seen Louisville and Cal in ACC play?
Right.
Never. They've never played. And it's a critical ACC game. What a time to be alive. Mention Big 12. Texas Tech rolling Kansas State. Game day goes there for a huge home matchup where, again, you look at odds makers, they've got Texas Tech as a 9.5-point home favorite against unbeaten coming off a bye, BYU could be a Big 12 championship game preview because the Cougars are 5-0 in the league. Texas Tech and Cincinnati are the only teams in the Big 12 who are a one-loss team. And Cincinnati just got bludgeoned by Utah. Both those teams now overall at 7-2. And one of the plucky upstarts in the league was Houston. They lose to struggling West Virginia. So Big 12, what the Big 12 would ideally like here is for Texas Tech to win this game, and then those two teams win out, because then I think in that case they get 2 into the playoff.
Yeah.
If not, it gets dicey.
It does get dicey. And I think the best thing for the Big 12 is that basketball season started. And so we'll get a chance to see how it all works out. It is that probably is the lesser of the 4 conferences, which we've talked about, and we've kind of had that same sentiment throughout the course of the year. But if they're hoping to get 2 in, it needs to be BYU, Texas Tech. And however that plays out, those 2 teams play in the conference championship game. And if one of them wins now, one of them wins then, you might have a chance to get both teams in. The game that I think not a lot of people are talking about is the one that's going to be in South Bend, Navy.
Yeah.
It's sad to see them take the loss because I wanted an undefeated Navy going against Notre Dame. But Notre Dame, same position as all those 2-loss teams that we're talking about. You're playing against one of the academies, and you can never let your guard down. It is a tough situation to be in, and 7-1 Navy heads to 6-2 Notre Dame.
It's a playoff game.
It is a playoff game. For
both teams.
I don't know if Navy can get in with the loss, but
if they beat Notre Dame in South Bend, absolutely.
Yeah.
The funny part about Army-Navy is the fact that there's a real chance one day we could have an Army-Navy game after the bracket comes out, and there's another team in the group of 5 waiting to find out if they get to go or if Navy or Army goes. So we'll see. Interesting stuff. But as we talked about, most important time of the year, transition time, and you got to check out both. If you're watching on the video, be sure you go to the audio side and catch up with running back coach extraordinaire, offensive analyst for the program, Michigan man Fred Jackson. And here on the video, definitely, we encourage you to check out that audio interview. But we got some fun. The first thing I want to make sure we do here, John, is that for something like this, the microphone's a little bit tilted off. So why don't you? We're going to fix that a little bit to make sure, because we've got a special delivery here. I'm going to give you a little napkin, a little paper towel here, give you a knife and a spoon, and we have a delivery from our friends at Crumble Cookie. If you have not been to Crumble, I encourage it. I also encourage exercise afterward. But no particular order. But we have their weekly selection. It's actually the Martha Stewart selection here, which is unique. I didn't expect that for this week. But every week, our friends at Crumble have a different 6 or 7 cookie recipe. Yeah, I did not mean.
Yeah, my kids are gonna love it. 6 or 7.
Did I make a mistake by saying or? Isn't it 6, 7?
No, 6, 7. Yeah, however it comes up. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got the 6 of the 7 here. The one we omitted just because visually it's not the best is the chocolate chip cookie thins. John vetoed the thins. Yeah. We had a legitimate 5-minute discussion about we're going to draft 3 of these. And John decided to pick 2, 3, and 6. We're going to try these, then we're going to get into our grades. Right. But the options are, and again, why don't we pan to my?
Here, you want me to hold it?
So yeah. Perfect. That'd be great. Yeah, great call.
I know it's a little. That way you won't.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I better draft quickly. So their top left is the pumpkin sheet cake. Then number 2 is the New York cheesecake. I know it's normally cookies, but go with us here. Chocolate tart cookie at 3. 4, there is coconut layer cake. 5, there is the Mile High lemon pie, and classic fudge brownie at 6. So, John, you gave me the first pick.
Yeah, and in going through the strategy that I had is I don't want to go pick first and then not pick till 4 and 5.
Yep.
So I took the back-to-back second and third pick because I think I know you well enough that you're not going to take the one that I want the most.
Well, okay. The strategy here, I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to start with the pumpkin sheet cake.
Okay.
That's number 1. So you get 2 selections now. We'll tilt this back to our viewers at least a little bit.
I'm going to go with the whatever that one was, the chocolate pie.
The chocolate tart?
Yeah.
Chocolate tart cookie. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right.
Now my third one, I'm I'm going to go with the New York cheesecake.
Perfect. That was so my strategy of wanting 1, 4, and 5s. I didn't think you'd go back-to-back chocolate, and I was totally fine. Honestly, my top pick probably would have been the brownie. So to get it at 4 is great value. And then the other aspect is I'm not a big coconut guy. So I'm going to go with the lemon pie. I think that worked out really well for both of us. So you get the coconut layer cake as your last selection. So what we're going to do here is, I promise this will have a football attachment at some point, but we're going to try a bite of each. And then you are going to give your top 3. And then, wow,
I came prepared. Bring your own utensil.
Boy, I brought a plastic knife to a knife bite. Not the greatest. So I'm gonna start with my top pick here. The pumpkin, what is your pumpkin sheet cake? I'm just gonna go retro style. There it is. Look at that. That's great.
There you go. All right. And now let me get this one out of the way here.
Yep.
And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take. You said we're supposed to just take a real like a bite size, right?
Yes, we will share with our crew afterward. Do you just carry that in your book bag? That knife?
Normally it's in my pocket, but
yeah.
So I'll take my what was this, chocolate pie?
No, chocolate tart cookie.
Chocolate tart cookie, yeah. Chocolate pie.
That is very much not a bite. That is half of it. Is it good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna dig into this fudge brownie. There are 250 flavors that they rotate over the course of a week. They have 6 or 7 at Crumble. Download the Crumble app. You can get it delivered, pick up, and head over to the location where we got these, North Maple and Jackson here in Ann Arbor, but there's locations probably where you're watching from. I'm going to dig into this classic fudge brownie.
And?
That's better than the pumpkin.
Okay.
That's great value.
Moist?
Wow.
Well, I mean,
yes.
You don't want it to be dry.
No, but just how you said it. Just your overall demeanor. Just your overall demeanor.
Food.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, so I'm going to go New York cheesecake.
Yeah.
And to make sure I do it right, you got to be able to get a little bit of, this is why you got to have a nice cutting utensil.
Sure. LW saying coconut anything should always be a last pick. Good call. I agree with you, LW.
I'm not a big fan of lemon, although that has nice whipped cream on top.
It does. That does look. I'm pretty excited. You can tell the difference in selection process because the bite you took of half that chocolate cookie was quite different. Now this one's going to be a real challenge to keep visual.
Just lick it.
No, I'm trying to salvage this. We wanted to give the great visual of. All right, here we go. We got the. Oh, dang, didn't work. All right, swing and a miss. I know. The Mile High lemon pie looks great.
As advertised.
I'm a big key lime guy.
Yeah,
key lime pie is delicious. It's like it's there, but I don't quite get it all.
All right, I'm gonna go with the coconut sandwich.
Yep, Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, see, but here's the difference: I actually like coconut.
Yep. So
I'm good with this. Now let's see if I can fit this whole thing in my mouth.
That was impressive. You didn't get a single bit on your beard. Good for you. All right. Now, my contract stipulates you got to keep that knife away. It's a little too close for comfort here. Put it back in the box.
I'm a professional.
Yes. While you clean up over here, a couple questions we got during our 7 from 77. Jeff asking, can Evan Link play left guard? Well, obviously, we don't know the status of Evan Link at this point, but you've said, I think, multiple times that Evan Link's
natural
his future might be inside.
Yeah, I don't see him. I mean, so when you're in a program like Michigan, you're talking about developing guys for the NFL. Obviously, you want to win at Michigan, and to start the season, the best option for Michigan was to have Evan Link at left tackle. Now that Blake Frazier has had some experience at left tackle, we could see the athleticism that he plays with when he comes back. I would not be surprised at all. His future in the NFL will be, I believe, at the guard position. So get him in there. You put Blake and Evan next to each other. I think that would be a hell of a combination on that left side.
Yeah. And also a question here or a comment from Scratcher's Remorse. Man, if Bryce could just slow it down a little notch, that game is a blowout. Missed a few wide receivers on for sure touchdowns. I think that's where we talk about the freshman moments, right? The opportunities were there. I think the key point was that kind of cross-body, off-balance, red zone interception. That was the one that had the biggest impact and potentially the biggest swing in what it could have been versus what it was. But I do think last year at this time, I think we all knew that the offense didn't have much of a ceiling. It's there. It was just, your graph had some dips, and this was maybe a bigger dip than expected.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know okay, you're going to have freshman moments throughout the course of the year. It's just a matter of how can you minimize those moments or minimize the impact, and that's where Bryce needs to be aware of third down situations. Where is the first down, the yard to gain to get a first down? Also, red zone. You want to be a little bit more judicious with the football inside the red zone because you've got points. You don't want to take 3 points off the board. And at a minimum, there were 6 points that were taken off the board because of the fumble as well as the interception. Also, when you're running to your left, it's just athletes are athletes, and some can do more than others. But every time you're running to your left, it is just harder to throw that ball across your body. So it's just about making decisions in those moments.
D-Ray 408 saying, I hope we are done with night games for the season.
We are.
I hope we're done for the regular season. I want night games in January, but I do think we're going to be done for night games. And I don't think Michigan can have a night game the rest of the way.
No, they can't.
And
it's already been thrown out there that obviously Northwestern, the one in Wrigley Field, is going to be noon start, 11 o'clock Central. Love it. We don't know yet what the Maryland game is going to be, but no, both programs would have to agree to put that game at night, and I just don't believe you're going to get consensus between both programs.
No, and frankly, I don't think you're going to put either Michigan or Ohio State the game before the game as a night game, especially if Michigan's the one on the road the week before. Thanks to Adam for tuning into the basketball show live stream last night. Very happy with the reception on that. Mike Boynton Jr. with some analysis. And Adam, that was user error on my part for the Trey interview. So we'll get that cleaned up. It was the first go at it. So thanks for watching that. Jeff saying, hearing Jon pronounce Nathan's name is pure comedy.
Nathan's Owusu Boateng.
There you go.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as fun as saying Piscataway.
Oh, okay. Ed Wright, hey, shout out to you. Thanks to your rooting interest of cheering against the Vols against Oklahoma last week. We appreciate you tuning in from Knoxville, Tennessee. Patrick, Jon, how impressive is the versatility in the run game, inside zone, outside zone, counter, duo, etc.? Seems like they do it all at a high level. And how much of that has to do with the offensive line?
Please repeat the question.
No, we want you. Actually, say Nathaniel's name again.
Nathaniel Owusu Boateng. It's a mouthful with a mouthful. Sorry, I thought I was going to be able to slide one in when I was off camera. Get an extra bite.
Well, I think this box is done. No, which one do you take?
I'm just finishing off my bite from.
Yeah. You still got
the chocolate.
The
tart.
half. Yeah. Well, is it tart?
No. I think it's not nothing tart about it. That's why I said it's chocolate pie. It looks like a Boston cream pie in a chocolate, little case. Cake.
All right, let's get into our grades because we will attribute some cookies to your grades. Let's go in order. We'll start with the quarterbacks, talk a little bit about them, but we're doing John Jansen 201. We did this between the Nebraska and Wisconsin games. We'll go position by position, got about 15 minutes. Your thoughts quarterback wise?
So I mentioned early on, right? I'm going to grade these a little bit on a curve. When you're talking about a freshman performance versus a position group where you got a lot of seniors, going to grade it a little bit differently. The quarterback position, C. It's just been average, and it's been above average for what you would think you would get out of a freshman, but we just need more, especially as you get to these final 3 weeks. You're going to need more from the quarterback position, and whether it's consistency and accuracy, especially with those throws down the field, you've got to find a way to connect when you have small windows, and we've seen him do it. And that's part of the thing is when you do it once, we know it's there. You do it twice, all right, now you've proven that wasn't a one-off, it wasn't a fluke. He can hit tight windows. I would just like to see some of those touch throws that are down the field be completed. And some of that's receiver, some of it's quarterback, but you got to give your receiver a chance to follow through. The things that I like that he's doing, I mentioned this before, I mentioned it when I was talking to Tony Alford, like the ball handling skills in the backfield. There's a couple of plays where, he's faking one, he twirls around, hands it to the other. Like that takes time to develop. The RPOs, and the read options, it takes time to develop. Hey, when that ball is in there And it's also on the running back side of things. Hey, I may have to take what did Tony Alford call it, a soft handoff, where if that ball's not thrown into my belly, I'm not going to take it. And that's going to be one where Bryce keeps it and takes it on himself. But you got to sell it. And I think he's done a really nice job with that. Now the next steps, things that I want to see in the last 3 games is just a little bit more awareness of where the blitz is coming from. Work with Kripp in regards to, you don't just have to go with what the center sees. The center is going to see it from a purely, X's and O's protection standpoint. And Bryce, when the game slows down a little bit, he'll be able to read more of the secondary, more of what's going on behind the scenes, and have a feel for, all right, on the last play, this is what we did, and here's what they brought. This is what I'm anticipating this side. Some things you've got to just see it in the moment and redirect protections. That's the next step for him. And that's a 200 level class. Yeah. And it might not happen until next year. But if we could get to that point in these last 3 games, it would be helpful.
Running back wise, if you're grading at a C, certainly there'll be a higher grade for running backs. Just how high?
So this is an A-. And a lot of people will say, well, why isn't it A? Well, there's only one A in this group, and it doesn't go to the running back position. And the reason I say that is pass protection. Need to see more. When you're in the pass protection, I need to see better technique and more follow through in some of those. I think this group does a tremendous job, from Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall, even Kuz did a great job of being patient and allowing his blockers to get in position, setting up the linebackers or defensive linemen to play a certain way, cutting back, or if it's got to stay front side. And certainly the big plays in this offense have all come, 99% of them have come in the run game. So when you have that type of explosive ability, Jordan Marshall or Justice Haynes, you're in the A category. So there's just little things that would put them into that A, but they've been obviously a huge part of this offense.
How about wide receivers?
Wide receiver, I'm going to go C+ on this. And some of it is the development of Andrew Marsh is why this is a higher than a C. Because, you watch one of the catches he had against USC, and even a couple of catches he had against Purdue, those are high-level catches. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Donovan McCulley have some high-level catches or draw some high-level penalties when he's, going up for some of those 50-50 balls. But there's just been too many drops, whether it's been, Samaj Morgan, Channing Goodwin, who's starting to work his way back in there. There's just been too many drops at the wide receiver position. I do like the fact that they are involved in the run game. They are trying to get in there, dig out some of those safeties, block the corners. Andrew Marsh on the pass play to Jordan Marshall, I thought he did a tremendous job of blocking his guy when they were in that diamond formation. But I just need to see more from the wide receivers.
Tight end, a fascinating group. How many different players we've seen? How would you assess the tight ends at this point?
Tight end's been a B+. And really the only thing that's been holding them back is just health. And consistency at the position. But whether it's been Marlon Klein, he's gone in there and he's done really good in the pass game. We've seen Hogan Hansen, Zach Marshall, Deacon Tonelli. Like, this is a very deep group. And I also like Marlon Klein coming into this season. One of the things that we talked about before the season with him was his effectiveness in the run game, and especially backside. When you get a lot of those cutback runs, and they've come with Justice and with Jordan, the reason they're successful is you're getting good cutoffs on the backside. Offensive linemen, you're supposed to do it. Tight ends, yes, but it's a tougher task at the tight end position. I thought they've done a really nice job of getting their hat and hands inside, running those blocks into the inside, and providing some of those cutback lanes. The other area, and a couple of guys that we don't talk enough about, Jalen Hoffman and Max Bredesen. Those two guys have been tremendous in the run game, and their position, they don't throw the ball to him a lot. We saw a drop earlier in the season by Max. I think we've seen one drop by Jalen. They don't get the ball thrown to him a lot, but in the run game, when you look at some of the things that Michigan has been doing in the run game of going to more gap action counters, they're not always pulling that backside guard and tackle. That's the traditional way to do it. But when you have two blockers like Jalen Hoffman and Max Bredesen, now all of a sudden you put Jalen in motion, Max comes in behind him. Those are your two pulling offensive linemen. You seal off the backside and you ram it in there with those two guys. I think they've been, those two guys themselves, if we're going to put the fullback position in here, I would say they would be in the A category.
If I would have told you after the New Mexico game, when Marlon Klein had 6 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown, that since to this point he would follow up with 9 total grabs for 69 yards, Hogan Hansen would have played as little as he has this season, and you'd give the tight end group a B+. Heck of a job by Steve Kasula.
Oh yeah, but so we talked to him, a couple of weeks ago on the Inside Michigan Football Radio show, and that's as deep a room at any position group as you're going to find around the country. When you can go 5 or 6 deep, and there's not much of a talent drop off or a production drop off, I'd like to see, and this is maybe why I'm going with the C with the quarterback position. I'd like to see the ball go to the tight ends more. Some of that is play call. Some of that is progression of being able to get to them.
All right, offensive line, John Jansen. How would you grade him right now?
C+. And the all of the good things that we're talking about with the offensive line generally come in the run game. Getting some of those gap runs, they've allowed to come off the ball, be aggressive, and they've picked up linebackers, they've picked up run-throughs. They've done a good job in the run game, and they're starting to be more comfortable with some of those reads, in reading how those defensive linemen are adjusting to the blocks with the motion of the offensive line, and then also being able to get up on the linebackers. I mean, you look at those 2 big runs that they had in the Nebraska game. Those were both on read runs. So they're starting to do a better job throughout the course of the season. Where their grade gets knocked down to a C+ is pass protection. In the first half of the Purdue game, there were receivers open and could have been big plays in the pass game, except Bryce Underwood is under duress, under pressure, and he's athlete enough to be able to get out and pick up first downs or pick up yardage. But you with a young quarterback, you want to give him really good protection, and it just hasn't been consistent enough. And some of it is identifying those blitzes as well.
Let's go to the defensive side. I think probably overall the mode of the grades will be a little bit higher. How would you assess the defensive front?
Well, from the defensive line, I'm going to go with a B+. And a lot of it has to do with the last few games with Derek Moore. I think Rayshawn Benny has had a tremendous season. And Damon Payne has been a nice addition. The depth that they have there, Cam Brandt, Nate Marshall, TJ Guy, like you go through these guys, and we said this at the beginning of the year. You weren't going to hear one guy's name over and over and over again, but we're starting to get that with Derek Moore. Yeah. But with the defensive line, you hear Rayshawn Benny on the 3rd and 1, 4th and 2 stop. You hear Eno Etta with a big play. You hear, Trey Pierce with a big play. Like you hear these guys throughout the course of the game. And the reason they're not in that A category is just a matter of consistency, being able to stop that quarterback run. And you look at the USC game, and I don't know that I could give any group an A grade, knowing that they got pushed around like that in the recent past.
Linebackers, guessing this is the highest, but confirm it for us.
It is. It's A. And I talk about the depth of talent at the tight end position. When you've got Jayshon Barham, Ernie Hausman, Troy Bowles, Chase Taylor, Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan, Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, there you go again. Like all of those guys have been extremely productive. And you've got 2 freshmen in there on a 4th down call, and they make good plays to be able to be a part of that stop. Like it literally is plug and play right now for that linebacker position. They're going 6 and 7 deep and getting really good production. And okay, maybe no one's ever going to get an A+. So I don't know that I could ever give out an A+, but if I want to give a higher A to them, open field tackling. Now we've seen it. Jimmy Rolder in the Michigan State game, tremendous. Ernie Hausman really all season long, tremendous. Some of the angles for open field tackling has been the only thing that I could look at these guys and say could do better. Like, okay, they've done a great job. Open field tackling for linebackers. Usually you're talking corners on the edges, open field, in the pass game. But these are downhill linebackers. They've done a great job of supporting that D line, and I think they've had a hell of a season.
Corners feels like an ascending group. How would you assess them?
Yeah, I'm going to go B right now. Because of the way that they're playing right now. And you look at this defense and you think about Jaden Sanders getting the bulk of reps at one quarterback position, Jair Hill. That Michigan State game, I'll say it again, I think it was their best game as a unit, but certainly for Jair Hill of being, lockstep with with Marsh as their number one receiver. I thought he did a tremendous job. Brandon Hillman, Mason Curtis. The detractors of this is where some of those big runs have happened, is that ball gets into the secondary and we don't do a good job of open field tackling. Angles are wrong, approach is wrong. When they do it right, chances are they're going to make that tackle. But I just need to see more consistency out of some of those guys. But I think Jaden Mangum has been a really good pickup in the portal this year. He's done a great job. But TJ Metcalf, this is a guy that is kind of the Swiss Army knife in the secondary. You see him all over the defense. You see him in run support. You see him at times putting pressure on quarterbacks. You see him covering guys one-on-one. I think he's had a hell of a year, and he's been a great addition.
So you mentioned TJ Metcalf, who's done some work at safety as well, so he can contribute to both sides. How would you assess them with, again, unfortunately, not a whole lot of Rod Moore on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of grouping all of those guys together, corners and safeties, and like Brandon Hillman, the hitman. Like, even in this past game, you get a big stop, and you're like, oh, who was that missile that came in there?
Yeah.
Brandon Hillman. Mason Curtis, with the reach that he has, he has really turned some quarterbacks away from even going his way simply because he's in the area and he's got great range. Jaden Mangum, TJ Metcalf, all these guys. Jacob Young, young player. Jacob Oden, young player. All of these guys are getting in the mix at that safety position.
So the grade for safeties is?
Oh, the safeties, B-.
B-, great. Okay. Now, special teams. I'm guessing this one's going to be a bit of a tough grade.
Yeah, special teams. We're going to go C- on this one. It's just a matter of consistency. Coming into the season, we thought Dom Zavada was going to be as close to automatic as you could be as an extra point and field goal kicker. Hasn't been that. But we haven't really – hasn't had many field goals in the last few games. So hopefully here at the end of the season – and we saw this last year where against Ohio State, the difference in that game was Dom Zavada.
Totally.
And so, hey, opportunity is still there. And then, in terms of punting, it's just been really inconsistent. We had a couple of bombs this past week against Purdue. You flip the field, and then, you come back with one that goes off the side of the foot. It goes out of bounds. It's a net of 22, 23 yards. Like, you just need more consistency. Special teams, we haven't had a return. We haven't had enough pressure on opposing punters to be able to get a block. Like, there's just that big play hasn't been there. And the decision-making, especially with Samaj in the punt game, better this past week. And the ones that were short, I don't think there was any chance he could have got up and fielded. They were just obscenely short. Yeah. So it's about making those decisions of when to catch the ball, the hidden yardage, don't let it bounce. And Andrew Marsh, I do like the fact that it seems like he's got the green light to be able to catch it on those kickoff returns and bring it out when he deems necessary. So I like him giving the green light to him. We just need to see more.
And lastly, coaching staff. We graded them at the first bye. How would you assess here with 3 games left?
B-. And I say that because I think I like the fact in the run game, they've made the shift of going to more gap schemes. In the pass game, I think there are some things that they could be doing to give Bryce early on in games, easy outs, easy plays to make to get him in rhythm. And there are just times throughout the course of the game where it feels just disjointed. And whether it's receivers lining up in the wrong spot or lining off with the wrong split, all of that comes back to coaching midweek and making sure that they are in position to make those plays. Jamar Browder, he needs to come along a little bit quicker, and I'd like to see him get there. Some of that's on the player, some of that's on the coach. Defensively, I 2 different categories here when we're talking about the defense, but it's also, you got a young secondary, and I like the way that secondary has played, but I don't like, and this is more of a philosophy thing between me and Wink, the heavy rotation of players. Guys like to be in games. Guys like to find a rhythm. Guys, you want to be fresh, and you want to be able to get to the end of the game and have your best players on the field at the right times. There are just times where I don't like the fact that, hey, it's a third and long, Jay Sean's not on the field. Or, you go back to the Nebraska game and you've got TJ Guy dropping into coverage and you give up a Hail Mary. I just think there are different things that you could be doing throughout the course of the game, the week, to be a better product on the field on Saturday.
So I have your top grades as linebacker number 1, running back number 2, and tight end 3?
Yes.
So what of those 3 cookies you had is We'll start with the tight end, the third best one that you
the
had.
third best one that I
Yeah.
had. Well, I would go with the coconut one.
Just
I like
ingredient.
Yeah. Well, no, I like coconut. It's just of the three that I had, that's number 3.
Okay, fair enough. I would go with the lemon, the Mile High lemon pie. Again, it's there, but I'd rather have lime. It's very good though. I mean, the crust is tremendous.
Yeah, but tremendous amount of whipped cream on top.
Yes, absolutely. We can all agree that it's wonderful. All right, your running back pick, number 2. Cheesecake or that chocolate tart cookie that's not tart?
Yeah, that's not tart. I'd go with the cheesecake.
Okay.
Cheesecake was good. The consistency was good. Really good, heavy, cheesy flavor. Fresh strawberry. So got no complaints.
Love it. For me, number 2 was that pumpkin spice. What is it?
Dying to try that
pumpkin
one.
sheet cake. The frosting probably was the best thing up here. Outstanding. And then, so we're both going chocolate for our number 1. You took half of it. You got a little bit to finish here. The brownies money. So if you're going to go, you should get them all. And actually, this is the last one here, the crumble cookie, just the thin little, we didn't want to have an odd number, but take a look at this bad boy here.
Is there 2 of them in there?
What's that?
There's 2 of them in there.
There are 2 of them in here.
So the best thing to do with those, from experience,
Yep.
is you take 2, you put a little ice cream in between,
and
you make yourself an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, pretty darn good though. Pretty darn good. Thanks to our friends at Crumble over at North Maple and Jackson here in Ann Arbor. Thanks to John Jansen for participating. I know, as you can tell, we really had to push him to do this. And by pushing, I mean, we said, please don't eat the whole thing on camera. Came close on that chocolate cookie. All right, that'll do it for us. For John, I'm Brian. We'll be back next week. Jack Miller will be back with us to talk about the trip to Wrigley Field. Can't wait to see the Wolverines going on the road. Big stretch run starts then. All right, for John, I'm Brian. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next week here on Michigan Athletics YouTube and John Jansen 77 on Twitter.